is important that I come on here and I'm not saying that I need to defend myself or my company, but Pumpkin Queen brought up a really good point about independent cosmetics and how you don't really know who the person is that's making your makeup. You don't know if their practices are safe, or if they're being on the up and up with their makeup company. But there are some kind of red flags and things like that that you guys could be aware of if you are supporting independent makeup companies. I personally myself feel safer buying from independent makeup companies, but I say that with a few restrictions because I don't necessarily think all independent makeup companies are created equal, or I don't think all of them follow the same safety standards or sanitation standards, or even I don't think a lot of them know what the ingredients they're using are in their makeup. I'm not saying the FDA are God, because they do a lot of things I don't agree with as well. They let a lot of things slide that I don't necessarily agree with, like lead in cosmetics and different things like that. And their whole spiel about getting rid of glitter. I've talked about that in a video or two before, that they are trying to take away glitter from a formulator's kit or arsenal of ingredients, and I just really don't see how that's going to work. They've approved it for many, many years, and basically just saying get rid of all your glitter now, it seems kind of like, kind of behind the times. And I'm not talking about craft store glitter, I'm talking about micro glitter, cosmetic glitter. They're saying that we shouldn't use that anymore at all around our eyes, and they've said it was safe for many years. So that's, I have my own issues with the FDA. They're not always consistent. They don't always check everything the way they should. They'll crack down on certain companies, they won't crack down on other companies, especially with cruelty-free statements and things like that. So I always take what they say with a grain of salt, but I do think as far as any other ingredient that the FDA doesn't approve of, I will not use in my formulations. In this video, I'm not going to be naming specific companies. That is not what I'm about. I'm not here to bash any specific companies. The only company I've really openly come out against in the past was Glitter Sniffer, and yeah, that was a whole nother fiasco. But I don't want to give negativity a power in my life anymore. I kind of want to just inform and teach you guys as much as I can, and then let you make your own decisions about companies. I'm not here to ruin someone's reputation or make them look bad or anything, but I feel like I do need to stand up for my company and my practices, and the amount of research I do for my company. It is a lot of work. Sometimes people think that running a cosmetic business is easy money, or it's very easy. If you're doing it the right way, if you're reinvesting back in your company, you don't make a lot of money. To be honest, most of my money that I've made goes back into my company to expand my line, to make new products, to make things better for my customers. So, I mean, I get to keep a little bit of that money for bills, but most of my profit goes back into my business, and I think I feel good doing that, because I know that I believe in my business, I believe in what I'm doing, and I want to make the best products I can. So not all companies are at the same page. A lot of them are just starting out. So you do kind of have to give them a little bit more slack, but at the same time, there's some basic standards and things that every company should adhere to before they open up a shop. You know my story with Pumpkin and Poppy. I had talked about starting the company last December. It was like an idea that I had in my mind, and you might remember it took me until about late July, early August before I even opened up my company or started selling product, and that's because I was researching, I was saving, I was trying to do it the right way and learning all the techniques I needed to know, learning about sanitation. It took me a good 6 months to get to that point. So it does take a lot of time to run a cosmetic company in a professional way. You do need to make sure that what you're selling is safe. There's no excuse for anyone selling an unsafe cosmetic item, or selling an item for a purpose that it obviously wasn't intended for, the ingredient. And a good example of this is neon colors. Now, I've seen a lot of companies, independent companies, using lake dyes in their formulas, whether they list them in their ingredients or not. You'll be able to tell a lake dye. It'll be a matte neon color. So micas are different. They're mineral particles that are treated with different colorants and dyes and things like that. They're like a separate entity that cannot be absorbed into the skin. They're basically just like a mineral that's coated with a pigment. So they're on a different standard than a lake dye. A lake dye is just a straight powder dye that can be absorbed into your skin. So a lot of the issues that people have with lake dyes is regarding their lead content. The FDA allows a little percentage of lead in products to be approved, and lead is very dangerous to use in cosmetics, and I know it's kind of a necessary evil sometimes, but there's also another stipulation that those who aren't formulators may not be aware of. Independent companies, independent brands like me, for example, I'm not allowed to formulate with lake dyes. They go through what is known as a batch certification. So when your makeup supplier, my main suppliers are DIY Cosmetics and TKB Trading, which are cruelty-free wholesale suppliers. That's where I get the majority of my ingredients from. They have someone come and do a batch certification on their lake dyes in their shop. When they open up those bags and portion them out and sell them to people, they are no longer batch certified. So you as a cosmetic formulator are not allowed to sell them for retail. You could use them in your own products, you can use them for yourself as long as you're not making money, but you're not allowed to resell any items with those ingredients in them. So that's a reason I don't make bright matte pink colors or bright matte red lipsticks, because I don't use carmine and I don't use lake dyes. And it's not just a matter of the lead, I'm not allowed to by the FDA to use them. Now there are some lake dyes that are safe. Again, that's up to the FDA to decide that, I guess, or up to you as the consumer what you believe. And Skin Deep, I'm going to link some websites you guys can check out, so you can check out your own cosmetic ingredients and do your own research and decide what you believe in. SkinDeep.com is a really good website with lots of scientific information on cosmetic ingredients, so you can kind of do your own research into those areas. But yeah, I've seen specific lake dye colors that you can't duplicate any other way. I've seen non-eye safe colors being marketed as eyeshadows. Like if you see a bright matte neon pink, I'm not talking like a Barbie pink, I'm talking about like a neon bright pink. That is not approved by the FDA to be used on the eye in particular. That's one example. There's a lot of different ones though. I suggest you do some research into lake dyes and different colors to avoid if you see those from an independent company. And the UK does have different standards. They actually do allow some neon colors in their country and in their area. Like I know Sleek has some, their palettes, they have some neon colors, and that's because in the UK it is actually legal for them to formulate with those colors, but not in the US. I do trust some companies that use them, like Morgana Scriptoria. I know they use lake dyes, but they are a larger company, so maybe she does have someone that batch certifies her lake dyes. I have no idea, but I'm just saying, if you're not 100% sure on the company and they're using those particular colors and they're a smaller company, just that's something to be aware of. Number two thing I want to mention is ingredients. Ingredients are all important. If a company is not listing ingredients for every product on their website, they're hiding something, or they don't really know what's in their makeup 100%. And you also do have to include like the official INCI names. Like you have to actually, instead of just saying castor oil, you have to actually say the scientific name and then castor oil in parentheses. Like there's a specific way you have to word that. And I know a lot of newer companies don't know about that. I had to learn on the go how to do ingredient labeling because it is kind of confusing, but that's how I label all mine now. I do the INCI labels, and I do them by their standards, and it's not just about listing your ingredients. Your ingredient list should go in descending order, meaning from the most to the least in your product. So that's why it does take me a long time to post and list up items, because I have to go through my recipes, I have to figure out which one has the most in this formula. That's number 3. You make sure you avoid repackagers. The main company that people get their ingredients from, and I do get my ingredients from as well, is TKB Tradings. The owner has swatches on each mica pigment, so you can tell if someone is just using that color without mixing it with any other micas or oxides or titanium dioxide or any base powders. You can tell by looking at the swatches on the site. I'm not saying that all colors can be 100% original, because colors are colors. Like, there's going to be similar colors in all lines, just because that's how that is. Like, you need to make certain colors, and yeah, but you want to make sure that most of the colors are unique and special and not ones you can find on basic wholesale sites. And when you look at the ingredient lists, you want to make sure that they are listing base powder ingredients. So not just mica or kaolin clay or some very basic ingredients. Like, if their eyeshadow only has about 4 ingredients in it, it probably isn't going to be a high quality eyeshadow, and it may be repackaged, just because for any given eyeshadow, I probably use about 10 to 12 different items, different micas, iron oxides, ultramarines, titanium dioxide, boron nitride for the kind of creamy feel or adhesion, magnesium stearate, magnesium mysterate to hold the color and make sure it doesn't oxidize or you know, absorb into the skin. So if they only have like 4 or 5 different ingredients listed, they probably are repackaging, or they don't know very much about eyeshadow formulation. I've also seen some sites that just repackage, like they'll buy makeup from a really cheap wholesaler and then they'll just stick their label on it or something, or call it their own. I have no problem with Sugar Pill. Sugar Pill hires a lab to make their items for them, and I totally think that's fine. If you have the money to do that, as long as you have creative control of the company, you know what's going in your products, and you're not you're making unique products, you're making products that are completely your own creations, that's totally great. Like, I'm glad that she can afford to make those, and I totally respect her company and trust her company. But there are some companies that just buy makeup from a wholesaler and then just stick their label on it, and then they don't have any creative say in the product. They don't they had no real part in making the item. They just buy it and then resell it for a higher price. And for me, like, the point of an indie makeup company is so you can find more unique colors, so you can find things that you can't find in the grocery store, in the drugstore, at a makeup counter. Like, they're unique colors that only that company has. So that's something to be aware of as well. Just make sure that you don't find those items on a really cheap made in China kind of site. Like, I think it's called Alibaba.com. They sell a lot of those kind of like wholesale makeup items that people will repackage. Looks too intricate to be homemade. It probably is, because making cosmetics by hand is so difficult. Like, I press my own eyeshadows, and it's a learning process. Like, it is very difficult. It's one of the most difficult things I've done as a cosmetic formulator. And to make patterns in a product, to make them really unique and bold and make impressions and do all these things, it does take a lot of work. And I'm not saying that an independent company can't do that. I'm sure they can, but it does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of work. And if they're selling it for a really cheap price, like, that sits kind of weird with me. Because you'd have to charge for your time. Like, it does take a lot of time to make pressed items and things like that by hand. Sticks as well, those are very hard to make by hand, and if a company doesn't seem completely on the up and up, like they're not listing ingredients for their other products, they're not listing ingredients for that lipstick, those are kind of things to be wary of. Now onto like the good stuff to look out for. If a company is making a wide variety of products, not just making eyeshadows, but they're making like foundations, blushes, cream products, liquid products, they're making a wide range of items and they seem high quality, like, that's a sign of a competent company that and it really does a lot of research into cosmetic formulating. And there are companies that do use melt and pour bases, meaning they buy their bases pre-made, and I don't really have a problem with that, but I do think that if you do use a pre-made base, you probably should let your customers know. I personally make all my own bases. I make my own Molly's Lips, for example. I make my own lip balm base for that, and it takes a long time. Like, I do it all by hand. I have to do it like with a double boiling method on my stove, and I have to do it like for very slow, prolonged periods of time. Sometimes I'll use my microwave as well, but I try to be really careful with that too, because you don't want, it'll get gritty if you have it on high power in your microwave and you're not paying attention and you're not stirring it and you're not, you know, going in 30-second intervals. Like, that's just something, if someone can do that well, like with their own recipe, with their own ingredients, then you know that they're on the up and up and they know what they're doing. To me, the companies that really stand out are the ones that try to do a wide range of products, and yeah. Another thing to look out for is customer service. Now, another reason I like a lot of independent companies is because if I have a question about something, I can contact that person and they'll get back to me within a day or so. Or, you know, even before, they might get back to me in the same day, and that's why I like independent companies. With a bigger company, you might be waiting 2 to 3 weeks, month, even more, or maybe they'll never get back to you on your questions. So that's something I really like. If an independent company is really slow on getting back to you on certain things, or they're not communicating with you, if there's a problem with the order or things like that, if they're not communicating, that's a sign that they might not be, that's a sign that you might want to be wary of that company. Independent businesses really, they know their customers are so important and they do everything they can to make them happy. I have in my store policies that, you know, if an item's lost in the mail, I'm not liable for the item, but 9 times out of 10 I will resend the item anyway. Like, that's just how I am, because I really care. Honestly, like, my customers' happiness is so important to me. I do everything I can to make products you guys want. That's why I try to, you know, on my Facebook, I try to ask what you guys want to see, what colors you want me to keep in my permanent line, what collections you want to see. I honestly really care about my customers, and your feedback is so important to me. So another thing to be aware of is a company that can't take constructive criticism. I look to my customers to help me grow, to help make my products better, and you guys have given me suggestions to make my items better, and I appreciate that. I think that's great. No problem with that whatsoever. I want honest reviews. I want honest feedback, and that's why I don't really give out that many of my products for review. I have like a blogger review pack, so, you know, we each are investing a little bit of our own money into it, so you don't feel like you have to, you know, kiss my butt or something, or you can tell people exactly how you feel about the item because you are paying for it, and then I know what you're saying is true as well. You're not just sucking up to get free product or something like that. So yes, I will give some free items to some bloggers that I really respect, or that I appreciate their feedback, but it's really rare that I do that. I really will only do that for like really close friends or people that I really trust and respect. So, but the blogger review pack is open to anyone that has an active beauty blog, could make videos, anything like that. It's open to anybody, so I'm not leaving anybody out of that. So I'm not bashing anyone, like, you know, but there is some basic hygiene. Like, you need to take care of your appearance. You need to present yourself in, you know, a professional way. If you have a beauty blog or a beauty channel, you should be using your own products on yourself to show how they look, how they wear. You should be proud of what you're making. You should be sharing that and using those items. And that's why I use all my own items on my channel, and every day, like, most of the makeup I have is makeup that I make myself because I'm really happy with it. I don't really feel the need to go buy more makeup because I really like what I make. Obviously, like, I make colors I want to see, and I make products that I like their texture, I like how they feel on the skin. So that's something to look for. Is the person representing their line? If they have a beauty blog, are they using their products? Are they swatching their items? Are they showing how to use them and looks. Are they, do they have good pictures? Do they talk clearly and concisely about their procedures, their products, what's in their products, why they use certain ingredients in their items? So that's something to look out for as well. Shop policy section, meaning they have their business plan mapped out really well. They try to answer any questions in their store policies so that everyone's on the same page, everyone knows what's going on. That is really a good sign of like an intelligent company if they have really well thought out shop policies. That is very helpful. And just to make sure they're not copying them from another website or another person. You want to make sure that it's their own statement, but it's very clear and concise and lays out their policies, so there's no confusion. You want to make sure that the company is okay with showing you where they make their items. I've made a video before showing my studio and where I work. I can link that in the down bar if you guys want to check it out. I work back here on my my studio table. It's a designated table that's only used for cosmetic formulating and packing. Like one side's dedicated to packing orders and the other side's dedicated to actually making the items. I always wipe it down with one of these handy disinfecting wipes every time I make something. The table gets wiped down with that. I either lay down paper towels or saran wrap. After I clean the table, I wear vinyl gloves because I don't want to. I know there's people that are allergic to latex, so I use vinyl gloves every time I formulate, and I have a giant box of. And if I'm putting labels on anything or anything like that after I pack the items, I always make sure I wear hand sanitizer when I'm touching any items, when I'm, packing items into envelopes, things like that. I always use my trusty hand sanitizer. So you want to make sure that whatever company is out there is willing to show you where they work, is willing to show like how they do things, and is willing to answer any questions up front, no hesitations on answering any questions. So I hope this video helps you guys, and I know that there's a lot of independent makeup companies out there, and while there are some bad seeds and there are some companies that you need to be wary of, there are a lot of really good companies as well that really do care about their customers' safety. And I buy a lot of independent beauty products and bath and body products, and the quality is outstanding. The items I purchase because I do research. I research the companies before I buy from them. I am usually 100% satisfied with the items that I use. Them right here. I go through a lot of them, that's why I have a big box of them. Another good way to tell is usually websites will have customer feedback, or like Etsy or Artfire will have like the amount of sales and then feedback, like comments and things like that from customers. That's kind of a nice way to tell. Their rating and their scores is a good way to tell on customer satisfaction. You can Google their name and see if there's any negative reviews on the company, if there was anything that wasn't dealt with professionally by the company. You usually can find the information if you Google it. So, just take your time, research every company before you buy from them, and, kind of stick with ones that people usually favorably review or enjoy, and, not because they're paid to or because they're sent items, but people that actually just buy the items and then are happy with their purchases. So yeah, I hope this helps you guys, and I know that it's daunting and hard to know who to purchase from, and I'm not saying that like my company is the only really good independent makeup company. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I do think about all these things, and I do really care about what I sell, and I do care about my workspace and making sure I do everything correctly. And that's why it does take me a long time to release collections, to do restocks, things like that, because I have such a thorough process that I have to go through to make an item. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm not here to bash any companies. I'm not here to be unprofessional. That's not what I'm about. I just thought I should address this issue because I care about your guys' safety, and I want to make sure you're using safe items.